Great. Welcome to Digital Asset News. My name is Rob, and today we got a lot of things to go over. So you might be here because of the thumbnail and the title, or you just come here every day just to talk. That's great. But we're going to go over the news, which is Celsius filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. And we'll talk about what that is, what's next, and the revisions that are coming forth, and some information that I've garnered from some people who know what's going on with the Bitcoin, or excuse me, the Celsius mining operation. So we'll take a look at the Celsius bankruptcy docs, what is Chapter 11, and have any financial companies come out of Chapter 11, because other ones have as well. Then we're going to talk about how maybe, just maybe, we're getting closer to the bottom. I know right now it doesn't seem like it's the most happiest of news, and I am not the most bullish of people. I think you can understand that as you've come here for quite some time. But there are some things up there that do give me a little bit of hope. And then also we'll take a look at TRUFLATION founder STEFAN, which is a 100% free website. You can track inflation, which we've been using exclusively here on the channel to track CPI. And we're going to talk about how that can actually help us, as it has 30 points of resolution as they get information in from CHAINLINK. And lastly, I want to talk about something good, which is the Simon indicator turns bullish. So we'll go over all those things first. Let's just take a look at the market and what I call weird times, because weird times, you'll see like the craziest things happen in like the bull market. You'll see like Katy Perry talk about NFTs, and she's really into it, and celebrities. And of course, that's not really what drives innovation, but it is enticing. So when the bear market comes around, which we are, make no mistake about it, in that fully, usually don't see those goofy things happening. However, these are strange times, my friend, and this is no different. Hostess, don't laugh, but it is funny. Hostess just put this out. Twink coin. Yeah, I know. And this is from Jane Addams. She ran for U.S. House Representative, and she had posted this just today. And I thought it was hilarious because they're trying to capitalize on crypto right now, which is, I think, is goofy, but whatever. So again, weird times. You see this in the bull run where goofy things like this happen, but here we are talking about this nonsense. And then, of course, I also had to make mention of the Bank of Pancakes, IHOP. If you go there, you can get a pan coin, which is a crypto pancake. All you do is just scan that right there. No, IHOP did not pay me to promote them. I just thought it was hilarious because, in all honesty, if you take a look at this to me is two things. It's POS and POW, proof of syrup and proof of waffles. Yeah, I know. So that's what's going on in the crazy world of crypto, which, again, these are weird times. If that happened in the bull market, I would have said, that's the top right there. Everybody sell everything. But that's just happens during the crypto winter, whatever. Anyhow, let me know what you think about that. I'm sure tons of comments on that one. But this is what's going on in the market. And this is what gives me hope. I mean, not hope in the long term. We all have that. I kind of feel like I understand where things are going. Technology takes a little bit of time, 3-year, 5-year, 10-year, not a big deal. In the short term, though, this gives me hope because yesterday those CPI numbers came out and we had quite a dip. I mean, CPI came out at 9.1. We went from over almost touching 20,000 to right at 19,017, somewhere around there. And today, it's like it didn't even happen. The CPI numbers are up. Yes, inflation's up. And Bitcoin's like, I don't care. And now we're at 20,287. So if you would have caught that falling knife, which I bought it somewhere around 19,200 because I told you that's what I was going to do. That's what I did. And pretty good day, I mean, honestly. So if you're up a little bit, again, think about taking profits. I know it's in that weird bear market, but still, I mean, if you would have bought a 1 Bitcoin, you'd have $1,000 a day. Just saying, just putting it out there. Ethereum's up. Tether USD coin is down because, of course, people are getting out of the stables a little bit to get into alts and Bitcoin. I don't think they should get into alts heavy, but whatever. Polygon up 20%. There was some kind of news. I forgot what it was, but I hold Polygon. It's probably going to be fantastic. Uniswap, which this also gives me a lot of hope. When we talk today about the TRUFLATION founder, STEFAN, and just as a point of reference, this is TRUFLATION. This is a website, 100% free. It tracks inflation from 30 different data set points. It uses CHAINLINK as an oracle to pull in outside data. And of course, we can see that what the government says and what is reality is vastly, vastly different. But when I was talking to STEFAN, the founder, and he said, because I was complaining about CFI. And he goes, you have to understand, he goes, look at the bright side. He goes, DeFi did exactly what it was supposed to do. And CFI did exactly what it said it wouldn't do. There were some regulated properties. There were people who in there that were talking about trust, and they pretty much lied to your face. And then don't sue me. And then allegedly, and then on top of that, if you take a look at DeFi, it did what it's supposed to do. Just take a look at Aave. It's holding up quite well. And I was like, Stefan, that's a damn good point. DeFi probably could be the future. So we'll take a look at that. And it's another thing that gives me hope, and especially with this strong market. And that's what Uniswap, really, decentralized exchange is going back gangbusters, because people are like, you know what? I don't like this CFI stuff. It was promised me the moon, and what do I get? Didn't even get a star. So that's what's going on in the market. Let's jump into this. Celsius bankruptcy. This hit home yesterday, and it appeared first on CNBC. And then I had posted that, and then people said, that's FUD. Don't spread FUD. You're a FUDster. Just because CNBC says they know somebody inside, don't say that here. That is FUD. FUD, well, it was true. I've been wrong before, but this one, it did happen. So this, if you go to Celsius.network, the website, is what you're going to see. They're going to say, can't access, check our blog, or visit this website. And if you click on visit this website, it's going to take you to Stretto. Case info, court dockets, file a claim. This is for the Southern District of New York. And it's going to say very clearly, on July 13th, Celsius Network and certain of its subsidiaries filed voluntary petitions for relief under Chapter 11 of the United States Bankruptcy Code. So there's different parts of this. There's Chapter 7, there's Chapter 11. But Chapter 11, yes, it is restructuring. And we'll go over all that stuff in a second. But if you take a look at the debtors right here, click on this. And you can find this. I linked this in the description as well, so you can click to your heart's desire. This is all the different debtors that are being named in the restructuring process. But there's one here, Celsius Mining LLC. And I've heard through the grapevine, this is just straight chisme. This is just straight rumor. These are an individual who works a lot with Bitcoin mining, says that he had also heard that they're going to be liquidating Celsius Mining. They're trying to get interest for people to buy this up. I don't know how that works in the bankruptcy courts. It doesn't sound, but that's just what I hear. Doesn't really matter. Everybody's in Chapter 11. They're all trying to restructure. That's what's going on. And if we click on back, what the big thing is right here. Let's see. First day pleadings. If we click on the first day pleadings, these are all the documents that you can go through, which is hundreds and hundreds of papers or pages in PDF format to take a look at different things. Why I'm excited about this is because Voyager had to do the exact same thing. And they had a first day presentation, which really laid down a lot of things that they are going through and talking about. And one of those things they said, hey, this is what we got. We got 110 million of cash, 350 million of cash held in the FBO account at Metropolitan Commercial Bank, 1.3 billion of crypto assets. And this, again, this is just Voyager. This is their petition when they went to the courts, which is happening right now on July 14th for Celsius. So this should also come out relatively soon. And we can see exactly, just like Voyager said or did, and make everything transparent. You can see the loans, the funded debt, and of course the outstanding loans and who those outstanding loans went to. So you may be able to dig through that over here, but there was one interesting thing. 21, the motion to authorize debtors' motion seeking entry of interim, authorizing debtors to continue to operate their cash management system. If you click on that, and then you scroll down, the cash management system, which is essentially Celsius, what they're saying. In the ordinary course of business, the debtors maintain a complex cash and management system, comparable system, blah, blah. The debtor's cash management system is critical to the debtor's business as it streamlines the debtor's ability to collect, transfer, and disperse cash and crypto generated from their operations and to facilitate cash and digital asset monitoring, focus on reporting. So what they're trying to do is they're saying, look, if this goes down, they can't operate. You need to allow them to keep that up and to keep moving forward. We'll see if the judge allows that. I am obviously not a lawyer, as I was fumbling through just that simple part. So if you want to know more things about this, I am not the guy to turn to. I'm just the guy that shows you these are the documents. This is where you can go to. You can look at it through your heart's content. And this is what's going on. So the next question then is, well, Rob, what happens for Chapter 11? We had actually covered this before during Voyager's thing. So I just want to make this very clear. It's not like everything gets liquidated immediately, okay? Filing for Chapter 11, I again link in the description. Bankruptcy protection simply means that a company is on the verge of bankruptcy but believes that it can once again become successful if it's given an opportunity to reorganize its assets, debts, and business affairs. This is probably a reason why they were paying off so many of its debts to get back its assets. And you've seen that in previous videos here and other places where Celsius went in and said, we're going to pay you off. We're going to pay you off. Give us back our assets. And that's kind of what's going on here. So they believe they can still operate. But the question is, really, can they? And the difference between Chapter 11 and Chapter 7 is that in Chapter 7, the company ceases operations, which is the exact opposite of what they're trying to do, and leads to the total liquidation of assets to creditors, which you could do that, but you probably get pennies on the dollars. That's, again, just my layman armchair lawyering right there. Understanding Chapter 11 bankruptcy. While Chapter 11 can spare a company from declaring bankruptcy, the company's bondholders and shareholders, you and me, although we're not shareholders, we own the debt or the crypto in there, are usually in for a rough ride. When a company files for Chapter 11, its share value typically drops significantly as investors sell their positions. Again, this is for a normal company that is publicly traded, which Celsius is not. And then it goes on to talk about stocks and bonds and how they'll reissue things. Not important to us. It's not a public company like Voyager is. However, this is the next question I had. Well, how many companies have come back? And we talked about this again in the Voyager video. How many companies have come back from bankruptcy? Well, some big ones, Apple, which had a lot of assets, was able to come back. And the reason was because Microsoft back in 1997 gave them a $150 million investment. Maybe didn't know that. But Microsoft came in, Bill Gates, everybody's guy that everybody loves to hate. Bill Gates comes in and saves Steve Jobs and Apple and says, here you go. And the reason was because they didn't want to be called a monopoly. That's pretty much what it was. So it wasn't out of the kindness of their heart. General Motors, Ali Financial, Chrysler, Marvel, Six Flags, Texaco, Sbarro, all these big companies came out. But the one that strikes me is Ali Financial, which is a financial company. Apple had hard assets. General Motors has hard assets. Chrysler, Marvel, everybody has hard assets. Financial companies usually do not. But the only reason that Ali was able to come back is because they were the sister company for GM. And of course, they got bailed out when the government bailed out GM. So that's not a real good point of reference. However, here's two examples I found. AMBAC. AMBAC is a financial group. It does investor relations and investment advice, investment strategies, and things like that. They actually filed for bankruptcy on November 8th, 2010. They filed for a voluntary petition for relief under Chapter 11 of the United States bankruptcy. And it took them 3 years, roughly, 2.5, to get out of bankruptcy. So that's one example that, yes, it did happen, probably not in the time you want to, and that sucks. But here's a better example that maybe might be better for you. This was Walter Investment. They had to change their name to Ditech Holding Corporation. This was listed on February 9th, 2018, and it states here, back in December, Walter announced it planned to file for Chapter 11 as part of a prepackaged restructuring plan to cut its debt by $800 million. That's a lot of money. So they did the financial restructuring plan. They were able to come out, pay back all their debtors. Now they're called Ditech Financial, and that's pretty much it. So in 3 months, roughly, these guys came out of bankruptcy. So I know that's not what you maybe want to hear, but it is the reality that it can happen, but it's not very common. It really just comes down to is how will they restructure? What is the plan? How can they come forth? And really what's going on? So that just leads me to my last question, which was this, which I got a message, I got a DM and said, hey, Rob, can I sue Celsius? I'm like, well, I'm not a lawyer at all, but there was a website, which is pretty much like, hire us, but it was interesting. So when people are asking this is your first step. Of course, you want to sue somebody, go to a lawyer. Don't go to a guy who's talking on a green screen in his mom's basement, talking into his computer about can you sue somebody for bankruptcy? Well, yes or no. So here's the thing. Bankruptcy stops most lawsuits. When someone files a bankruptcy case, a court order called the automatic stay immediately goes into effect. The stay stops a creditor's attempt to collect the debt from the debtor. You won't be able to file or continue with the lawsuit if the damage occurred before the bankruptcy filing. So let me say again, you won't be able to file or continue with the lawsuit if the damage occurred before the bankruptcy filing. Here's the allowed lawsuits though. The automatic stay doesn't prevent you from filing or continuing with all court proceedings. For instance, it doesn't involve debts. It involves a legal right that won't arise until after the bankruptcy filing. Lawsuits involving debt that won't be discharged in the bankruptcy are fraud. If you're a victim of fraud and bring a lawsuit for relief, you might be able to file or continue the lawsuit during the bankruptcy case. Many debts that arise from fraud aren't discharged in bankruptcy if the bankruptcy court or a state court determines the debts arose from fraud. Again, I'm not a lawyer. I'm just telling you what that said. And then somebody had a pretty good comment at the very bottom here. Valuable divide. If you can prove fraud, that can pierce a bankruptcy. Also, Celsius is filing for bankruptcy, not Alex Mashinsky. He's likely going to be personally hit with many lawsuits. Some may be able to recoup lost funds from that avenue. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Again, me and Valuable Divide are not lawyers, but just something to consider. Anyhow, let me know what you think about that in the comments section. And again, here's the thing. Voyager and Celsius, I talked about a lot on my show. I did. And I liked Voyager. I still like the people in Voyager. I can't believe they did what they did. You know, uncollateralized loans, over $500 million to 3 A's Capital, but here we are. And then, of course, as I understood it, for Celsius, it was collateralized loans, and looks like that wasn't even the case. And there was a lot of craziness going on, we will say. So when the information changes, I change. And that's really what it comes down to bear markets, to bull markets, to everything else. That's why we talk about these rules underneath. And that's why, again, thankfully to a person that helped me out and told me, when I went to Consensus, June 9th, 10th, 11th, they said Celsius, something's going to go wrong with that one. Put out a video on June 12th, links in the description. 9 hours later, off goes the withdrawals. Okay, so there's that one part. And with Voyager, when I found out that they were doing uncollateralized loans of over $500 million, I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. Put out a video on June 22nd, had the rules up already, get everything off exchanges. July 1st, stopped withdrawals. Going forward, these rules underneath me, they will never leave. These are my rules, and you can do whatever you want with them, but these will be from here through the bear market and the next bull market and the next bear market and the next bull market. It's all gone. Just assume that what you invest, don't invest more than you can afford to lose. Everything's a scam. Don't leave anything on exchanges. Don't use leverage and take profits along the way. Simple enough? Okay, we can agree on that. Let me know what you think about that in the comments. Let's get on to some good news. Getting closer to the bottom. I'm not sure. Here's what we got. So this is an article from CoinDesk. And of course, it's all about indicators. I'm not real big on indicators, but it's just something to add to your arsenal. It states that the market likely bottomed in June with the Mayer multiple dipping below 0.5. I don't even know what that is. But this is what I'm going to say. Every indicator can be useful, and sometimes they're actually even right, but not all the time. Mayer multiple measures the difference between an asset's going market value and its 200-day simple moving average suggests the crypto bear market has run its course. Here's the thing. I don't even know about that. What I can tell you is that Ben's website in the Cryptoverse, there's a link in the description. It's not an affiliate link. Just go there, check it out. It can do all that stuff. So like when I'm looking at them, I'm like, now I got to find that stupid thing. So you can go there and you can verify it. 200-day simple moving average, and you can play around with everything that you want to. And you can get this on a lot of different websites, but I like Ben's because there's a lot of things about risk assessments and month-to-month return on investments. So I like that part. And we can see right here in this greenish, I don't know, greenish type of thing. Here's the simple moving average. 1.62 trillion And the market cap is only about 900 billion. We are, gosh, 45% below that, 50%, 45%. So when we see like these things, and of course they're talking about the Mayer multiple, sure, I can see that. Mayer multiple was 0.53. The crypto market value at 863 billion was worth almost half. And of course, the assumption is that the market would bounce back or pull back to its mean, representing the 200-day simple moving average. I don't think that's true. I'd like to use the MVRV, market value versus realized value, which you can find over there at Crypto Quants, and anything below 1 is a good buy. The thing that I wanted to beat in everybody's head on this one is not about the indicators, because they're never right. And some are right sometimes, but you never can. The big thing I want to talk to you about, and Gammon talked about this on Market Rebellion, or Rebel Capitalist, whatever. I always forget his good show. But he says this, he puts it very simply. Is something cheap or is it expensive? Right now, we're looking at the markets and everybody's trying to go, where's the bottom? Where can I get the bottom? What's going on? How much can I get to it? You'll never hit it. You may hit it one time or twice if you're lucky, I suppose, or you could call the top. And of course, somebody in the comments is going to say, well, this guy called the top and this guy called the bottom. Yeah, how many other times did he call the top and bottom and miss that? I'll never do it. I'm not smart enough. But I just look at things and I go, are these cheap or are they expensive? Right now, I'm not buying houses. They're expensive. Right now, I'm looking at crypto going, that's pretty damn cheap. I'm not going to hit the bottom, but I really should start dollar cost averaging, which I do, and I buy Bitcoin every Sunday. Now I've been waiting because for these CPI numbers to come out. That's all you got to do. That's not financial advice. It's just how the things that I look at them go, is this cheap or expensive? Right now, everything's cheap. Could it go cheaper? Sure. In 3 years, do you think it'll be this cheap? I don't think so. That's just the big thing I wanted to bring to your attention, and then to go from there. And then also, when they're talking about here is, and they said, to look at the positives. The U.S. reported inflation at a new 4-decade high of 9.1% on Wednesday, spurring the bets of a 100 basis point rate hike later this month. I think it's going to be a full basis point, and I think the market is going to respond by dipping a little bit. So I will not be dollar cost averaging until July 26th and 27th when the Fed does their meeting. I can wait. I'm just going to save it up and do value cost averaging. That's what I'm going to do, not telling you what to do. And also, if you're looking for, take a look at inflation and the real numbers. I mean, you can trust the government. That's fine. I just don't. There's this great website, app.TRUFLATION, we've been talking about, 100% free, links in the description. And it takes 30 different points and shows you where inflation really is on a continuum. And they use CHAINLINK to pull in all that data. And right now, I talked about this yesterday. I thought it gave us a lot of hope because look, I mean, we had in March, we were almost touching 11.5%. Then April came around and now 10.75. So what the Fed is doing, and this isn't looking back like CPI numbers, this is real-time data. So when I take a look at this and I see that, oh, inflation is going down, I get a little bit more bullish, which I know is odd to hear me even say that word, but I do, because I'm like, well, as the inflation goes down, so the Fed's going to look at the retro numbers. We're looking at numbers that are happening in real time. This is what I think I'm going to be looking at a lot harder as time goes on and say, well, if the Fed's going to pivot when inflation goes down and now we're going down, even though they're retro, maybe I could front run the Fed. To bring this home, I did an interview with the founder of TRUFLATION, STEFAN. And again, he's the guy that was talking about, hey, look at DeFi, look how much it's holding up. He was a Bitcoin investor in 2012. He was part of Bitcoin.com and all the different things, and he knows a lot of insiders or OGs. So this is a interview, and it's about 10 minutes long, and it's fascinating to where this data comes from and how it can help you be a part of your plethora of the different things that you look at for your investment strategy. And then after that, we'll take a look at the Simon indicator turning bullish. So just take a listen. Here we go. So as promised, I wanted to bring somebody in who could really dig down into the app TRUFLATION, which we've been using on this channel now for about a month or so. And I think it's important as we move forward. So Stefan, thanks for stopping by on the show and explaining all this stuff. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here, and super happy to be on your show.
Yeah, man. The website is very easy to use. I think my grandmother could use it, and just the interface is fantastic. But we got to ask you some questions to know what the heck we're doing here. So first of all, 4 questions. Who is Stefan Rust? Then we'll talk about how TRUFLATION can actually help us. Then where does this data come from? And what's the next step for this website and the platform you're building on, which would be also Laguna. So let's start with the basics. Stefan, who are you? Where'd you come from?
Yeah, so I've been around for quite a bit. I've been a serial entrepreneur, set up a lot of different types of businesses. I actually got into Bitcoin in about 2012. Nice. When I bought my first Bitcoin because a developer on the other end of the world wanted to get paid in Bitcoin. I didn't know what it was, looked it up, and saw that there was a Bitcoin J wallet. And I had a career in Java in my background. And so I was familiar with that, and then sort of dug deep into it. I bought my first Bitcoin on eBay using PayPal before it was banned at $5. And it was... I didn't think much of it, to be honest. I did not appreciate the value of what it could do until 9 months later, that same developer asked to be paid. Can you pay me now? You have the Bitcoin. And I go, yeah, I have it. And I noticed the price has gone up to $300. So, wow, that was amazing. Yeah. And at the same time, then on Skype, I did an instantaneous transaction for free whilst doing a video call with the developer. And so I was sold from then on in. I had a developer agency at the time. And so I just started building out a developer network of companies and individuals that could be building on Bitcoin at the time. There was only one currency. And so that's how I got into Bitcoin, was the CEO of Bitcoin.com, working alongside some of the real OGs before I set up TRUFLATION.com.
So it's not about what you know. It's who you know. And if you know a lot of developers and the OGs in the space, now I know where things are coming from. That makes a lot of sense. So talk to us about, real quick, before we get into how can TRUFLATION help us, how did you come up with the idea of TRUFLATION? Why did you do it?
So we saw governments printing a lot of money. Inflation was transitory. I just could not believe that. And I just could not believe that. Yeah. And that was basically the genesis behind it. But rather than it actually being the genesis to leading to the product where we are today, what we did is study inflation. And we figured out that it's a real old system that was put in place. It was built out before we had computers, mobile phones, internet, etc. Yeah. But more importantly, it was done on a panel basis. So you did not take a developer approach in terms of using census data across multiple sources, got millions of items, and leveraging modern technology to do that. And it was only when Balaji posted out there on 1729.com/inflation, where he launched a competition to anybody who could build a inflation dashboard. We'd studied it. We knew where we would collect the data from. We had the architectural designs that we had mapped out in terms of how we would do it. And we thought we would make it available on the blockchain. Gotcha. And so that was like a red rag to a bull. We then said, let's build it. And so 4 of us within a 2-month period went out and built TRUFLATION, which we then launched 3 months later, pretty much, at Decentral in Miami in December last year, which then brought us into version 2, version 3, which you have now, and you see on the dashboard live today.
Yeah, we already used it. I'm going to skip around because I think this is more relevant. So when you talk about TRUFLATION and how it all got built, I guess the next question should have been, where does the data come from? And what's the next step for TRUFLATION? Then we'll get to how can TRUFLATION help us. So just real quickly, talk about, where does this data come from?
So we source the data from all these different online sources. And you can see on the website, we try to disclose all the sources that we use for aggregating this data, how we weight it, our methodology. We have basically about 30 different sources of data across 10 million items. And each of those items has to have more than one source of pricing information. And so we actually have at minimum 20 million sources of data that we aggregate. Actually, it's much more than that, but we have 30 different sources of data from reputable brands that we aggregate and put together in the outputs that we see in 12 different sub-indexes.
Yeah, and I think that's the big thing is we're talking about this, with Fed Reserve. They're looking at these CPI numbers, and it's retro. They're taking a look at what's happened before, which is fine. But I think as time goes on, we're going to want to take a little bit forward thinking, which I guess will be the next question. But before we get to that, what's the next step for TRUFLATION?
Yeah, so how do we get into, so ultimately we do only cover the US market today, and what we're trying to do is go into other markets. So how do we look at UK, Canada, Mexico? So we've got a cadence of about 4 countries per quarter that we want to announce and launch. But more importantly, we want to get into the ability to be predictive. We're already 30 times faster than the government reporting. We update our numbers on a daily basis. So that means we're 30 times faster. And if we go deeper into each of the categories, we can see what is influencing each of those categories. And ultimately, we then can aggregate pricing information from those influencers to see how they will likely change the outcome of a price of transportation, of the price of real estate or rent or accommodation, etc. And so how do we then actually go into more predictive and into sort of future forecasting based on data that we can acquire?
Gotcha. Future forecasting, people building on it. That might be the next step, I would guess.
And then ultimately, how do we get people building on it? We had a CHAINLINK competition, a hackathon, where we rewarded developers to build on it. We had 40 companies build on TRUFLATION.com. Ideas that were super creative, all available and visible. And now TRUFLATION.com, by the way, is available on 4 different blockchains. Bit of a sales pitch, but that's what we have made available.
Well, it's a pretty great sales pitch because also the data is for free right now. That's what I'm using all the time. I'm not paying you a red cent. So that's great.
Yeah.
So Stefan, that would lead me to the next one. Like I briefly touched on it. So the Fed Reserve is looking retroactively. They're going to talk about a soft landing. Probably not going to happen. So the real question is then how can TRUFLATION help us moving forward?
So I don't know how it can help us, but what it can do is help identify where new products and pricing is going to change. What do I need to do in order to identify, where and how to react, what to do. Right. It's how is it going to help us individually? I think the data itself allows us to do computation that will impact us, right? Is now the best time to buy a new car, or will it be a better time in 6 months' time when prices come down? So you can see prices have already come down in the transportation, which is a reflection of your secondhand car market having come down significantly with a lot of oversupply as people go back to work. They're using their cars again. They're also using public transportation. They don't need 3 or 4 cars, or they don't, so that has sort of settled out a bit.
Gotcha. So I can see that. I will be using this pretty much every day just to take a look at what's going on.
Yeah, please do. That's why we make it available. And we want to then be able to allow you to go even deeper, right? So if you look at transportation, you scroll down a bit, you can then see how heavy transportation is as a part of the household expenditure. It's about 19% people spend on transportation. And then you can see what the categories are. How can you then click into one of those categories and then see what's the constitution of that? So vehicle purchases, net outlay, what is in the vehicle purchases? Is there first-hand, second-hand car? And what is public transportation? What are people spending on transportation? How has the price changed in public transportation? What types of public transportation, etc.? Crazy.
All right. So that's important to know, I think, for everybody. So that would lead me to my next one, because you've got TRUFLATION, but when we were talking behind the scenes, you mentioned Laguna. And I was like, I don't know what that is. Talk to us real quick about that and what's coming down the pipe.
So Laguna, basically in simple, is we're trying to bring global commerce to the web, or to Web3, right? I mean, that's really what we're trying to do. How do we do that? And what we're trying to do is, on the Laguna blockchain, we're trying to take out fees and friction in transactions. And the way we're doing that is a couple of things, right? We've identified that fees need to be below 5 cents in order for peer-to-peer transactions and commerce transactions to happen.
That would be nice.
and ultimately friction. We need to take away the fact that in order to do a transaction on any of the blockchains, you need the native token in order to do that, the native utility token in order to fund a transaction. How do we move away from that you don't need that? Those are some simple examples of how we do that. You'll find out more on our website.
Yeah, and then just before we take off, I think this is a big think story, because we were talking behind the scenes about, like, me as an online e-commerce provider, it's going to be either 1.99% plus 30 cents or 2.99% plus 30 cents per transaction. So take that globally, and we took a look at the different software that's available in India, and it's even much higher than that, which is, to me, quite insane. So if we can drop that below a nickel, that's great. The problem is if we're using stable coins and things like that, which is built on a lot of the times, well, ERC20 or Polygon or Binance Smart Chain or Tron. So if you do all those things, now here's the part with the friction and moving things across. We can do it cheaply on other chains, but sometimes a user may say, well, I'm on ERC20 and I want to transfer another chain, and then it's gone. So if we can do something like this and knock that down to, because we all know the gas fees are astronomical, but take those from $5, $6, $7, or $20 at the height and knock it down to a nickel, because we're using these different chains, that would be just like how it was in the old days when the cell phones came out and they said, hey, do you have AT&T? Well, I got Verizon. So it's a little bit different. Now, no one thinks about it. It doesn't matter, because that's where we have to go.
And that's really what will bring about global commerce and will hopefully recover and take us out of this negative economy, right? And recession that we're likely to enter into. This is the time for building. We're going to be building. We have a very clear vision of what we want to do. How do we make a lot of this possible?
Yeah, excellent. Well, my man, Stefan, you've said a lot. I want to say, first of all, thanks for stopping by. Everybody, of course, you can find app.truflation.com and the link in the description. Use it at your leisure. I'll be talking about it a lot, especially as the CPI numbers come out. And that is it. Stefan, thanks so much for stopping by.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you for the audience for listening and taking the time out to hear what I have to say.
Excellent. All right, everybody, let's jump back. Indicators, Simon Yu, thanks so much for being the Simon indicator. What he says here is this. Bitcoin did pretty well with the macro environment. Looked out that tens of billions being liquidated, large hacks, macro history, but it still holds at 20K. And again, like, I'm not very bullish on this channel. I'm a little bearish, but these things give me a little bit of hope. And then we talk about, and someone asked him, hey, weren't you just bearish a little bit ago? He says, yeah. He goes, but when the facts change, I change. Two main things. CPI comes out, it's okay. And then, of course, Celsius has been dumping hundreds of millions in crypto, but the market's been absorbing it pretty well, despite the vast amount. So there it is. So look, I hate when I mute myself and go from there, but that's all right. So that's it in a nutshell. That was a long video today, and you guys stuck with me. Thanks. 40 minutes, and I still got almost 1,500 people. So thanks, everybody. I do appreciate it. If you want to stick around, we're going to do a quick Q&A session. I'll answer all your burning questions to the best of my abilities, and then we will go from there. So let's jump in. Ta-da-da. Ha. Let me get rid of this banner. We don't need this. All right. Tommy V, shout out to the beautiful people in the Dan fam. Hello, everybody. Toaster says, I'm still holding my crypto and not planning on selling it. Sounds good. But with everything happening, this feels like the first steps towards the end of crypto. This is how it always feels in bear markets. Everybody's euphoric in bullishness, like it'll never go down. And then, of course, it goes down. And then, of course, people will always, it's always a different narrative, right? In 2017, 2018, it was all about this is the future and this is what's going to happen. And it's going to be awesome. But then we realized that we were nowhere near that. And no one was actually really building the rails. So it just collapsed. And then this next one in 2021, people always tell me, Rob, you don't understand. There's so many institutions like MicroStrategy and the like, and even El Salvador. Bitcoin will never go down from now on because there's just too many things to buoy it up. And I'm like, just wait. And here we are. So again, that never changes. And then, of course, even though you think that bear markets will last forever, they don't. They're like the rain in Puerto Rico. You don't like it, just wait a little bit. It'll change. Hello, Battle Rap. Even Sam Bankman-Fried believes most crypto is a Ponzi. I saw that one where he was talking about it. And I think it's true. I think in some of these, I think everything's a Ponzi until it becomes stable. Let me introduce you to the American Social Security system. Let me introduce you to pensions. The same thing. Like, you have to actually get things going, you have to actually bring more money in, or else everything collapses. That's just the truth. Let's see. Twisted says Rob shills, but doesn't rug pull like other pumps and dumps. Yeah, I got to get away from that term. I think because shill has a negative connotation, and rightfully so. But I am an aggressive promoter of the projects that I invest into and believe in. That's what I should be saying. But I didn't. Anyhow, good point, Twisted. YSK, someone made a good point on Twitter showing how commodities have come down quite a bit since all-time high this past year. Yeah, I think even Ben talks about into the cryptoverse, and he talks about how beforehand commodities would always drop down and then kind of rebound as we start to rebound out of the recession, which I believe we're in right now. So buckle up. There's going to be a lot of that going on. Bombs Away says, you guys are fools to trust any unregulated exchanges. He's not wrong. Ben Cole, Rob, don't you promote Celsius? Yes, I used to promote Celsius. I also used to go to Blockbuster. I also used to use a real typewriter to type my papers when I had to put them out. But as time goes on, I realized that one are just completely useless, and one didn't tell me all the things they were doing behind the scenes. So I don't talk about them anymore. And that was why on June 12th, I put out that video saying to take all your money off Celsius. And I did the same thing on June 22nd with Voyager. So hope that answers your question. The herd is following Gareth Soloway. Dude, I remember